Hello and welcome to this episode of Over the Bar. I will be tactically analysing the game between Germany and Spain in the Women's Euros. In this video, we will be covering Germany's deep build-up, Germany's high press or counter press, and then Spain's build-up. Starting with Germany's deep build-up, they built up in a 4-1-2-3 deep versus Spain's 4-1-3-2 press. Germany's centre-backs and goalkeeper were happy to play over the Spain press towards the wide midfielders, typically towards the left-hand side. They like to play these long balls, both from the goal kick as well as during midfield or sustained possession. In both incidents, they were looking to release their wide midfielders, so Huth or Bull, but especially Bull on the left-hand side. Germany sought to exploit the space either side of Alexandri, the CDM, in the Spain press. And when Spain were in their 4-4-2 or 4-5-1, Germany sought to exploit the space behind the Spain defence, typically looking to launch long balls towards Bull or Wasmuth in the second half when she was subbed out. Wasmuth sought to facilitate this by positioning aggressively out of possession. When Spain were in their 4-5-1, Aitana and Guajero wanted to push up to become a second centre-forward and reduce the amount of time that the Germany centre-backs had on the ball. This was where Spain's initial counter-pressure hadn't been successful. In the second half, after a number of substitutions had been made, Germany were happy to hit long balls towards their centre-forward, at this point Bull rather than Pop, with their wide midfielders and CAM, at this point Dalman, looking to try and support. At 2-0, they were happy to play off flick-ons with such a rapid forward line, rather than put the ball in danger with more coordinated deep build-up. So here, in this scenario, in the 19th minute, we have Germany building up out the back. We've got that flat back four, as mentioned, doing early tactics with Oberdorf as the CDM, and both of the number 8s and the Brits, and Magul higher up, presenting potential options behind the Spanish press. Those long balls by Germany into the wide spaces allowed them to relieve the pressure from the Spain press, as we see here, with significant distance between the Spain players and the Germany player on the ball. This pattern of play with those long balls into those wide spaces was abused numerous times. Again, we see a ton of space either side of Alexandri with the CDM for Spain. Again, with Magul and the Brits taking advantage, and in this play, the Brits looking to try and combine with Bull in that wide space. This scenario in the 75th minute, Germany again looking to play the ball long from a goal kick, except this time they're not looking to hit those wide spaces as they were earlier in the game. Instead, looking to hit Bull more centrally, with the two wide midfielders in Wasmuth and Heath looking potentially to work off flick-ons, with Dahlmann looking to support from CAM. So looking at this scenario of German counter-pressing, we start off with Spain in possession. We've got that back three I mentioned earlier. So you've got your far-sided right back relatively deep in comparison with your left back, Alexandri as that CDM, and you've got your forwards in Garcia and Galdente dropping to try and support play. As mentioned in the tactics section, the 4-5-1 shape, and Germany's defenders and centre midfielders being happy to track Spain's forwards movement counteracted some of Spain's flexibility. We see that here with Huth tracking, we see that here with Quinn tracking, and in just how much the 4-5-1 has bent to try and counterattack Spain's flexibility. And on regaining possession, Germany of course looking to try and counterattack, helped as mentioned in the tactics section by having players in counter-pressing positions such as here Magul and the Brits. And here we see that space either side of the centre midfielders of Spain being exploited by Germany, in this case by the Brits' movement. Note also that Magul is looking to become that second centre forward, although she was also happy to move out into those wide spaces and just trying and maintain possession and create. So we see here Magul, who only a few seconds ago was more central space, and now looking to try and create an overload in the wide left-hand space. That central space is now being occupied by the right back in Gwyn. Gwyn's positioning was important also for the counter press. So we see here, after Germany has just played the ball in, but Baños has been able to punch the ball out into this right-hand side space, Germany are able to immediately put pressure in this space, helped out also by the fact that they've got their right back in a high central position, allowing them to mark or press all the short passing options for Spain. And lastly, looking at Spain's build-up. Typically Spain build up in a 3-1 midfield or a 2-1 midfield versus Germany's 4-5-1 defensive shape. The difference in the 3-1 versus the 2-1 comes from the position of Spain's fullbacks. Typically Battier staying as kind of a right centre-back, although she did often support Garcia, the right midfielder, with overlapping runs. But compared to Wahabi, who at times was actually a left winger, with Galdente, the left winger, coming inside to become a central midfielder, I think it's important to make the distinction. This kind of flexibility was also seen in the Germany side, with their right back Gwyn coming from right back and often ending up in central positions. Spain's width from their fullbacks was counteracted by Germany's 4-5-1 shape. Spain's forward players' flexibility was also counteracted by Germany's defensive players' flexibility, with a number of defenders and centre midfielders typically tracking Spain's forwards when they dropped or looked to roam. The benefit of this being when Germany did win the ball back, they had momentum and they had players in the counterattacks. The number 8s for Spain in possession were Guijarro, Caldente and Bonmati, all of which were flexible in their positioning, although Aitana seemed to be more responsible for deeper build-up, but Caldente as well on the left-hand side would often drop deep and then look to spin in behind to try and take advantage of whoever had tracked her. The right-sided midfielder for Spain, Garcia, was tasked with being a lot more dynamic and direct and holding her width on the right-hand side. And of course, Spain looked to use the half spaces with Caldente and Aitana looking to combine with the wide midfielders and the fullbacks in those spaces. And for the Spain scenario, we're having a look at the 52nd minute. Note how Spain are looking to overload this right-hand space, similar to what we expect with, for example, Barcelona. So they have their CDM Alexandri coming across, looking to try and be the start of the counter-press if they were to lose possession. You've got Bonmati looking to pick up that difficult to mark space in the half spaces. And you've got your fullback looking to try and support the wide midfielder in Garcia. So Spain's play broke down in the wide space and Germany looked to try and clear the ball, but Alexandri is positioned well to counter-press and cancel out that easy ball to feet. And note, behind Pop as well, you've got Paredes tracking her. Paredes definitely should have went off for a red card, but regardless, she's looking to try and counter-press in case the ball gets to Pop. Eventually, Spain are able to escape that corner, and this is a really good example of that 2-1 base. At this point in the game, a little bit later, Spain are feeling a little bit more desperate, which is why you have Batir, the right back, also pushing high, just like the left back Wahabi. So we've got our 2 centre defenders and we've got our CDM, and then we've got our number 8s. So we've got the 3 of them here with Caldente looking to come in off her left flank, allowing Wahabi to take up more of a wide midfield position. This is also a perfect shot of that 4-5-1 that I mentioned. So we've got Pop as the lone striker looking to try and help as best you can. She tries to plug up holes, but then we've got our 5 in midfield with our 4 at the back. And whilst they're initially trying to keep it quite narrow, so we see that here with the space between the lines, but then also we have the tracking that I mentioned earlier. So we see that here with Oberdorf, as well as here De Brits. Due to Germany's willingness to concede possession, especially given the scoreline, you would end up often with Mapillon whilst in sustained possession for Spain, ending up in this kind of left centre-back position, left wide centre-back position, as if her, Paredes and Batir were playing as 3 centre-backs. And with that, we're out.